Welcome to this episode of Sunny's Silver Linings. Sunny's guest today is Shona Elliot. Shona is the founder and CEO of Shona Elliot Leadership Services. She has a passion for helping other executives connect and engage with their greatest assets, their employees, for the purposes of increasing employee retention, employee engagement, and achieving an organization's business goals. Her advice to leaders in the channel and employees working for an MSP is invaluable and a must listen. And now, your host, the founder and CEO of IT by Design, Mr. Sunny Kaila. Over to you, Sunny.
Shona, thank you so much for joining me as my guest today. I truly appreciate your time.
Thanks, Sunny, for having me. It's an incredible honor. Thank you.
I'm very excited about our conversation today because you are a great leader with so much experience as a leader, and especially the MSP background. And you know what I love about your work, Shona, in the MSP space is, and I know this for a fact because we have some shared customers, and I know as a result of your leadership coaching for these customers that we serve as well, that CEOs of these MSPs and their leadership team, they are better leaders. And you are doing great work in the channel. And I thank you for doing thought leadership in the MSP channel.
Oh, thanks, Sunny. Those are kind words. And I have to reflect back my own experience with you, Sunny. And I've mentioned this to you a few times. And your thought leadership is amazing. And it's been such a gift to me to hear you speak and to get to know you, and the fact that you are about people-centric leadership and seeing your success through your people's eyes and your clients' eyes, to me, is just been fantastic. So I think we have a mutual respect for each other, and it's just been such an incredible opportunity to get to know you over the past few months.
Thank you, Shona. So let's start with your journey. And I would love to learn and share with our viewers your professional journey. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm probably very unique to have been in the role as a CEO of an MSP in the healthcare space in Canada. I always call myself the reluctant MSP CEO or leader. For many, many years as a senior leader in the Canadian healthcare system, I was responsible for the IT portfolio and had been on boards of organizations that we had created, which is a whole long story. We decided to amalgamate our IT company that was serving our region of hospitals and combine it with a supply chain company and really try to focus in on a unique shared service model for our region, our hospitals. And I was on the selection committee, and about mid-search, I got called by the executive recruiter that was leading the search. And she said, the search committee wants you to step off the selection committee and wants you to apply because they don't see any other candidate or any other way. And so I was kind of surprised, and I don't have a deep technology background or supply chain. I do have a deep background in leadership and hospital operations and HR. And yet I've probably been on the soapbox around how technology really needs to serve its customers or its clients, and had been beating that drum for 15 years and sometimes pretty assertively, being a board member. And so I said, well, I better put my money where my mouth is. And so I did step down from the selection committee and became CEO. And that was a real gift. It certainly wasn't on my career path. And what it did for me was, one, learn technology in a very different way than I had before. But most importantly, it really shaped our MSP to do what I'd always wanted it to do, was to see its service for what it should be, is helping healthcare professionals do their job in a more efficient way and really impact patient care. And so that was a lot of work to connect the dots from that mission to every employee in the organization. And we had a couple hundred employees at that time. And it was an incredible journey. Fast forward a few years, and I have branched out to this little entrepreneurial journey. I had launched a book with COVID, didn't know what was going to happen because it was COVID, and I got pulled in really, really quickly to provide support in a variety of different ways. And supporting MSPs somehow fell on my lap. Again, not by design. And again, it's been an amazing gift to help support MSPs and business owners to really focus in on their people, their culture, and their customers, all that to help them achieve their business goals.
And you always talk about the importance of employee experience, employee engagement, because you normally relate that again with people and people that we are serving, internal and external. So can you talk to me a little bit about employee engagement, employee experience, what it means to you, and what is the key difference between engagement and experience of people?
Yeah. There's so many buzzwords in leadership that have evolved over years, and certainly my career. And my first foray into anything around employees and how they feel about an organization was with staff satisfaction. So that's many years ago. And I remember getting I think it was a 200-page report on staff satisfaction in my first week as a senior leader in a large hospital. And they said, here you go. This is your responsibility. You need to fix it. The results aren't looking too good. And, I spent a couple of hours poring over staff satisfaction and knowing I was responsible and wasn't really quite sure how I was going to tackle it. Thought, gosh, this is interesting. And yes, a lot of feelings and emotions, but it doesn't really tell the real story. And it is a snapshot in time. And how do we understand really what is happening in our employees' experience of our organization? And so I fast forward many years later, we were able to get those scores improved over a few years, but not just by focusing on staff satisfaction and a survey result. It is by looking at their experience, the holistic journey of that employee from pre-recruitment to their recruitment, their onboarding, to how we integrate them into the culture of the organization. How do we align their work with the mission of the organization or its purpose? And then how do we grow and develop them? How do we check in and support them through their life, since they are humans and they have life as well? And so if they're with you for ideally a long time, they're going to have wonderful seasons in their life and then not so much wonderful seasons in their life. So how do you support them through that? And then how do you offboard them? And even that needs to be looked at through the eyes of employee experience. And how do you gather their feedback, their perspectives, their ideas throughout the process on your business, but most importantly, on any practice, policy, or decision that impacts them directly? And how do you do that in advance? And so employee engagement gives you a slice of that, and it's important. And employee experience does all of what I just described. And it's looking at it through the window of their belonging and their purpose and how you develop them along the way. And not just looking at, one small aspect of engagement, which is typically directly controlled by their managers. So employee engagement, if you look at the results and studies, I think it's about 70% of variance in employee engagement scores is influenced by that manager. So incredible work and focus does need to be paid attention to there. When you look at an employee experience, it is the whole organization and its systems dedicated to its people at play. So they do work hand in hand. Both are important. A lot of individuals interchange those words or use those words interchangeably. And then some just talk about employee engagement. And there is a very distinct difference. And I look at employee experience from a leadership perspective where, as a leader, whether you're the business owner or a leader in the organization, it's every single thing you do. Are you supporting the employee experience that your employees want, or are you not? Or I say from a culture perspective, with every interaction, it's email, or if you're in person, it's how you interact with them. It's how you speak with them, whether you're stressed out, tired, hungry, frustrated, whatever is going on with yourself as a leader, regardless of all that, how do you show up, and are you moving your culture forward and advancing it? Or are you treating your employees in the way that they, desire to be treated, or are you not? And so it's being conscious of that with everything you do, which is, it's a high bar to kind of set for yourself. And yet that is the role of a leader or business owner.
Yeah, that's awesome. So thank you. So one thing that I heard that creating those seasons with your people, where it's long term, right? So at the end of the day, when we were kind of talking earlier, and you mentioned, are you a leader who's going to look at surveys and that data, or are you going to be a leader who really knows your people, your team members, that you don't have to rely on surveys data? You feel what they are feeling. And one thing that kind of, when you mentioned the season, and one thing that comes to my mind, somewhere I read that you have relationships for a reason, relationships for a season, and a relationship for life. And relationships that we are building as leaders with our team members, if we lead from our heart, we can create those relationships for life. And regardless of if that person is working in your team, not in your team, but the relationship stays. So I love that piece. Now, you talked about how you show up as a leader. Your state of mind impacts your team. Tough time is going to be there for a leader, right? That is what leadership is all about. You leading that change, you're leading during hard times and good times. But your state of mind is under your control. And then you always talk about self-leadership. So it's a nice kind of a way for us to move to the self-leadership piece. So can you talk to me, like from the MSP lens perspective? These are small businesses where there's a lot of, they wear multiple hats, and resources are not available to them as much as a big business or mid-sized business. So there's a lot going on, and you go through this kind of state of mind where you may end up impacting your team unintentionally. So what can MSP leaders do to make sure they show up with that positivity and energy that is required during tough times as well?
I think self-leadership is the single most important thing business owners should be focused on. And it doesn't take a lot of money to do that. It does take time, which I guess does equate to money. And it's probably the biggest investment into themselves that they can make. Being an entrepreneur and a business owner or a leader, all of that is a ride of emotions. It's a ride of fear. It's a ride of risk. It's a ride of pressure. Yeah. And how you manage yourself and how you lead yourself through that ride is critical to the success of your business. Yeah. So if you are interacting through or making decisions through a place of fear, and you're not acknowledging to yourself or recognizing that you are acting impulsively or making a decision because you're fearful of something, if you don't recognize it, you just do it and then perhaps make a decision that isn't best for your organization or for your people. If you've had a stressful conversation with a very frustrated and angry client, how you navigate that and how you sit with it through the right perspective, where that feedback is a gift that will make your business stronger if you take the right corrective action, versus one of feeling shame or blame of yourself, your leadership team, your employees. You have to catch yourself in the moment. Those emotions, we all feel them. It's how, as a leader of yourself, that you don't let those emotions govern your decisions and how you show up in your relationships with others. And that's taking some work to understand what mindfulness is and what presence is, and then how to reflect. As a human, we will all have, moments that are better than others, and then understand what your triggers were that led you to perhaps, react in a way that wasn't your best self, and then just course correct. Don't judge yourself for it. Course correct and do better next time.
Yeah, I love that. So the feedback that you get from a frustrated customer is a gift. If you take that as a gift, reflect on it and see, okay, how are you going to use that gift and share that gift with your people? rather than getting into any kind of blame game or anything which is you're unintentionally probably impacting your team in a negative way. How can you use that gift and apply that learning, that gift, and share that gift with your people and make a positive impact? And that requires mindfulness, that requires reflecting and being grateful. All those practices are important to make that as more of a reality or practical or things that we can do to take that personal accountability rather than thinking everything is happening because of this team member or that team member, thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I learn from, in this example, from that frustrated customer where I can help and coach my team to make things better than yesterday? And I love that piece. I want to talk a little bit about that connection that you were talking about earlier, that dots of your employees' work with the mission or purpose of the organization. So I know you're a thought leader in the channel. You talk a lot on this topic. I want to share some insights on this topic in terms of that connection between work and the mission and how MSP leaders can make that happen.
Mm-hmm. The penny for me really dropped when I became CEO of our MSP for our hospital system in Canada. As a board member and a senior leader prior to that, always harping on whatever our IT organization was and the lack of service that they were providing. It was so frustrating for me in those years. I couldn't understand why the techs at the time didn't understand the impact that their work had on direct patient care. It just was a mystery to me. And so as a CEO and having to put my money where my mouth was after all those years of complaining, I began to help connect those dots. Regardless of your role in an MSP, you're providing immense service to those you are in service to. It isn't just about how many tickets you're completing. It isn't how many, field visits you're doing. It's understanding for that client, regardless of their industry that they're in, it's how you're contributing to their success and helping them deliver their business. And it's starting to shift that perspective. And so with my MSP specifically, I had to help them understand their specific value and connect that dot regardless of their role. And in some cases had them do some shadowing with the actual clients and teams that they were supporting and talk to them, not to answer a ticket, but to speak with them about their pain points and the value that their service provides, and to try to build in wherever I could. How does your work, your role impact the client? And who is the client in this case? And what is it that the client is trying to do in their role and in their business? And the more you can paint that picture and build that perspective beyond just the role of doing what they're doing from a technical perspective, the better that they can see it themselves, and then they will shift their perspective and will also then view the work that they're doing through the lens of the importance of their work, because they're providing immense value to the businesses and clients that they're providing support to.
Yes, no, absolutely. So I want to go deeper into this a little bit because this is so critical, that alignment, right? Especially with the millennials and everyone else, all other generations, the after millennials, they pay a lot more attention to meaningful work and how their work is impacting this world. And technology, in the technology sector, when you look at the demographics, and there is a lot of young generation there. So the team members that we have around us in the MSP ecosystem, a lot of millennials and other generations, and they're looking for that connection. So I want to be that MSP owner. And as you know, Shona, we have MSP practice here in New York City metro area. And our clients are more in the finance sector. We have some PR marketing companies. We have some restaurants and hotels in the meatpacking district that we are their IT. You figure that out, that restaurants do need their managed service provider as well. So help me out. So I have a team of help desk engineers. They are solving these tickets for either restaurant businesses where we are the managed service for them, or finance or marketing PR. Those are the 3-4 verticals that we serve in New York City. So how can I, as a leader, what can I do to make sure that I'm helping them discover their connection of solving that ticket for the small business in the city and connecting it with our mission or purpose, which is building happy, healthy communities with passion for excellence. That's ITBD mission and purpose.
Yeah. So a big gap I see in the MSP space right now is that because they serve a variety of different industries and clients, there isn't a lot of attention paid to the business's mission and how the technology that the MSP is serving supports their goals and their business. And if there is even that discussion, if it's at a service way, that's one thing, but even if it's at a deeper way from the business owner who's making the sale or building that relationship, it's not usually articulated to the team providing the support. So there's no story. So it's just another angry business owner who may be seeming unreasonable in his moment of frustration or her moment of frustration. They see that. They don't see the story behind their frustration and how essential it is, the technology is for the livelihood of their business and what is at stake for them. So it is having to take that additional step beyond your own mission is to understand the mission and the goals of the clients you're serving. What is their story? What does it mean to them when technology isn't working the way they want it to work? And how critical it is for them, anyone in the MSP, to do their work with that kind of vision in mind and understanding the impact so that they can connect the dot. Yes, this is essential. This is just not this angry person calling yet again, being unreasonable. They're being unreasonable because they're frustrated because their whole restaurant business is on the line because their systems are yet again not working. Or from a branding perspective, they can't get the signature on their email looking the way they want, which may seem like a minor point to a team who's got 1,000 other things to do. But to that business, when everything is branding, it is absolutely critical. And so I find in my own MSP, and I find with a lot of other MSPs I work with, there's so much judgment about the tickets and the requests and the attitudes of those that are calling to voice their displeasure with the service. That's the focus. And it's not the focus on what is impacting them because their technology is broken and how essential their role is in answering that phone, being communicative, understanding, patient, and interested in solving their problem. And I would like to add empathetic. And that is, a stretch for some MSPs. We do have to kind of look at the basics first, but it is empathy as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. So when I'm looking at things from my perspective or our customer base and our team here, which is serving our managed service customers, what comes to my mind now listening to you is that at the end of the day, they are expanding their capabilities to serve their customer by partnering up with you as their IT provider. And when their IT is not working and their capability is not working to add value to their customers or make that impact that they're making. So what comes to my mind is a public relations firm, Shona, in New York City. Their client is Atlanta's Bahamas. And so I'm like, Atlanta's Bahamas is their customer. And when this public relations company's technology is not working, they are not able to serve their customer, which is creating that happy place for families and children where they can go and have their kind of really their family time. And, at the end of the day, if my engineer, help desk or managed services engineer is serving that PR firm and their technology is working, actually this person is creating that environment or that property which is helping families have that happy time. So you can relay that ticket to really making an impact on another family or another human being.
100%. And it's interesting because MSPs have such a wide variety of clients who are also serving other clients. And long before there were MSPs, IT was part of that organization. And so I still look at it today as that you're, as an employee of an MSP, part of every organization that you serve and part of who they serve as well. So it's hard to kind of keep the fact that you may have 50, 100, 20 clients that you're a part of their organization. And in reality, you were at some point in time long ago, and it is a different model today. And yet you are still part of the team and you are still serving the mission of that organization. And it might be 20 organizations or 50. And yet you are doing that. So that is a business owner's role, is to try to understand it themselves. Their organizations that they're bringing on, their clients, their pain points, the importance of technology, what their business goals and priorities are, and then help connect all those dots to the team and to be building those stories. And then use the examples of frustrated clients and why they're frustrated to help peel the onion for the team, that this is not just someone complaining and being difficult, although that might be that individual's personality. And there's always something behind it. And there is a reason of importance that we have to understand, because it is a pain point for their organization and their clients. And so you don't know who you're impacting kind of down the chain.
Yeah, no, and I'm going to connect this with your sharing of self-leadership, personal accountability. On one side, we can look at that frustrated customer and he's just trying to be difficult, his personality. And another piece is that self-leadership that you're talking about. Okay, rather than me just blaming his personality or him being difficult, there must be, let me just go deeper and listen generously and see what is that question behind that frustration. And if I understand that, what can I do, right? I cannot change his personality, but what can I do to make sure that I am taking personal accountability based on my controllables list to serve that customer better, rather than just going to that blame game that type of mindset.
Sure.
Yeah.
100%. And, I hear a lot of thought leaders out there, and we'll say, some things maybe that are similar to what we're talking about today. And, I see a lot of leaders kind of roll their eyes and say, well, they don't know, they've never done it before, which is usually true. And in my case, I can't think of any other leader I've come across that has had to deal with as many angry surgeons, chief of staffs, patients, clients, CEOs, senior leaders in their career as I have. So it's not like I'm just saying, yes, this is what business owners need to do, and I don't understand the reality. That has been my reality. And I've seen the crunchiest, most difficult, chief of surgery, will say, who's been viewed as just white noise for years and shows up in, not the ideal way. And I always try to find that gem of what is really going on here beyond the noise, beyond how they're showing up. And there's always something. And if you can just sit in that space and not internalize it and have that mindset that your gift to them is listening and truly seeking to understand and not judging, and find it in the noise, there's always something to work with. And yes, often lots of noise that, isn't relevant, and there's always something. And it does take a mindset and a perspective to sit in that uncomfortable space. And for me, it's not uncomfortable. I enjoy it because you can strengthen relationships through that conversation, build trust, and provide value along the way.
Yeah. And to your point, Shona, so these are in general very challenging roles, right? And we understand that. And it's a lot more challenging during a pandemic. And it's making it, that job of a leader where your speed is going to be equal to the speed of your team. And in the world that we live in right now, where talent wars are going on, and where the top talent retention is a high impact on that leader. And if that is a challenge, then it's even more challenging. So scary times around us because of a pandemic, with talent retention becoming an issue. So it can even bring more challenges for leaders, and especially MSP leaders, when tech talent is just not out there. So it is so crucial, so important for MSP owners to focus on their talent, their culture, their retention. And I love, and what I'm taking away from this podcast, Shona, is from our talk, is that the value of employee engagement and making sure that the employee experience is right, so that you have a highly engaged workforce team that's going to make stuff happen. And stuff happen for that customer experience. And the importance of having that, you being that brand, story brand, where your people know the story in terms of the connection, that the work that they have with the customer, and having for business owners to understand those hidden costs as well. So hidden costs for attrition and how it impacts them. And then taking the ownership of employee engagement, because no one else is going to get up and see, okay, how about the culture. It is right. CEO's job to make sure that your culture is strong, and especially now that people are taken care of and they feel good about the culture, especially in pandemic. And the CEO's number one job is to focus on people, focus on culture. And for culture to be strong, you need to make sure that the employee engagement and employee experience is world-class. That can make the customer experience world-class. So those are the three takeaways: employee engagement experience, self-leadership, and taking ownership of that culture, which is the feeling of your team.